Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Ted, today we have an incredible panel that's going to talk about parts. But before we get into that, Ted, you and I have received some mail recently that really is addressing this topic.
That's right. We have some of the foremost experts in retail parts with us. Yet we're also want to respond to our audience. And Sarah, I think some of the things we're going to cover today will be on parts inventory, obsolescence. Nobody better to help us tackle that than Kaylee Felio, the sales and marketing manager at PartsEdge, who's hosting our panel. We've also got with us Allie Peters from San Antonio, Jaguar Land Rover. Mike Weldon out in Santa Rosa, California, a great friend of the industry, a great colleague at the Center for Performance Improvement. Mike, happy to have you. And Ellen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Great to see you again. All right. So with that, everybody, Kaylee, maybe we dive into that inventory, and here we are, middle of November, halfway through the second to last month of the year. It's a shorter month. Tully reminded us yesterday, there's less working days in November, and December even less working days as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny because a lot of conversations I have towards the end of the year is around obsolescence, when it should be all the time. We should be talking about it all the time, not just after we do a physical and we're like, oh, look at all this obsolescence. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Every one of you guys is very special to me. Mike, you've been on every single one of my panels, I think, since I've been on the roundtable. So I thank you for that. And also thank you for being I know you're not with the group anymore, but just such a longtime client and such an advocate for PartsEdge. So I just wanted to shout that out because you're awesome. And then Ellen,
Thanks.
we connected on LinkedIn and I interviewed you on my podcast, and you are an incredible parts manager, director. You're going to make some big moves at the group that you're at. And I'm excited for you to share your thoughts, leaving the industry, coming back in, and what you're going to do. And then Allie, superstar, you always just bring the light to the conversation. And I'm so glad we got connected. And Sarah and Ted, you guys are amazing. So sorry, I just had to do that because I just feel very grateful for all of you guys. And if someone asked you guys to have a conversation on parts and inventory management, like, that's incredible. No one cares about that. So it's crazy.
Well, Kaylee, they very much care about it, is what Ted and I have seen. And that's actually one of the things that has been really exciting about the parts conversation. This is $1 billion industry. And Ted, it's only continuing to grow. And the projections are amazing coming over the next 5 years. I mean, this is just going to continue to be a topic of conversation, as the industry looks at solutions, for customer retention and opportunities to keep more cars in their service drives and out on the road, Ted.
A few years ago, Sarah, Kaylee was telling me that most of the conversations, and she was right, at the Fixed Ops Roundtable are around service, very little to end, if anything, on parts. Now we see the pendulum is switching, and now companies and people and dealers want to talk about parts, and they want to talk about parts, things like inventory and things we'll be discussing today. So parts right now is the place to be. Ellen, at this time of year, as a parts director, parts manager, what are some of the things they need to be focused on, even for the general managers watching today who may not actually be located in that department?
Really, we need to be looking at what, like Kaylee was saying, obsolescence, and trying to get inventory together for the following coming up year, starting to prep for customers and kind of focus on what we're going to be turning over during winter. You're looking at tires and anything winterization wise in order to kind of get customers in here moving, get them taken care of, move along on that type of front. Right now, I'm kind of reevaluating a lot of my employees and kind of the guidance that we have. They've been without guidance for a while, so we're kind of in general kind of starting fresh from the bottom. And so it's a good time also to train for us. I mean, in this area, it seems to be a little bit of a slower season. So I think it'll be a good time to start training some new people and getting them in motion to what we're experiencing for the next 2026.
Mike, you've always run a very efficient parts departments. I saw our friend Tully recently said that the only thing old in the parts department should be him. He said nothing else old in that inventory. Mike, what do we need to be looking at this time of year?
Well, having it, being that I'm not in a store day to day, but I'm in many stores now day to day, and talking and the second largest investment that a dealer has in their business is parts inventory, but it's never spoken of. I've had some challenges in several stores where Kelly and I have talked about how to get them right, where their inventory is completely upside down, and most of the parts that they have in their inventory are obsolescence, and that's kind of unique to me because the stores that I worked along with my management team, they did a very good job of keeping that in tow and making those turns and keeping the inventory clean. That way, we could put in new parts, to support that guest that's coming in and not having to worry about the stuff that we couldn't sell.
Yeah, makes sense. Allie, what are you looking at this time of year over in San Antonio?
Yeah, so I will say we are in a different state of mind because of the recent cyber issue with our manufacturer. And so we really are looking forward into Q1 as to what the impact is going to be for the delay of manufacturing the inventory that we need. And so we're making decisions right now to kind of go a little out of what we would normally follow to make sure that we have the parts we need in stock. While it might seem a little higher than we would typically carry, because we know there is going to be a delay with getting parts. So ours is a little bit different, just with manufacturer specific, but in addition to that, everything that these guys have already said, we were just discussing bin counts yesterday, and we have we tried to make it fun, new rotations, so everyone gets involved, and just making it part of the process and reminding ourselves of the basics is how do we get parts here quickly? How do we have parts here proactively so that when we have a need, it's not let's order it and wait, but it's we got it, let's go.
That actually brings me, because you may want to ask me what I'm focusing on. I don't know. But all of what you're saying is exactly why. So I recently did a lot of research and I created a calculation to see how much it's costing a dealership not to have parts. And so what I looked at was the parts gross margin percentage, the ELR, the labor gross, how many ROs are happening each month. Obviously what the cost of sale or however they're tracking their turns, either the sales or cost of sales, the average inventory, pulling that all in together to look at if you are doing this many lost sales per day, you're clearly not having the part. It's delaying ROs by at least 10%. It's costing about $100 in parts lost. It's costing about an hour each in lost hours of ROs and whatnot. It's insane how much money. Like people are like, wait, what? The total loss, and then not to mention the frozen capital that is tied up because you don't have the right inventory. I'm looking at numbers right now, and it's like an inventory, just about a $200,000 inventory with 3 lost sales per day, about 2, maybe 300,000 lost yearly in not having those parts. Just think about if you could affect half of that. It's just crazy to me. So it kind of like what you were talking about, having the parts when you need them is really the goal, is what we want to achieve.
And Kaylee, I imagine, the other part of that conversation that is really critical that, a GM or a dealer principal might not be paying attention to in that equation is the impact to the customer. And that whole experience of, well, now, they don't have the part. Where am I going to go for that tire? Am I going to go to an independent? Am I going someplace else to try to figure that out? Because I need my car serviced. So how do dealerships really think about this in a strategy, when you're looking at that kind of dollar amount on paper? Like, what are some of the solutions that dealers could be considering?
That's a huge question. I think the best conversations I have with especially dealers and GMs is the ones that are actually wanting to learn and asking questions and trying to get involved in the parts department, not in a way of like you're doing everything wrong, but really truly trying to understand how can we better support the parts manager and not just say, oh, that's their job, they should just do it. Well, no. How many tools do you give your marketing and sales team? Like, how many tools are out there for parts managers? Not very many. So it's their job, but it's also their job to make really good decisions and produce results. And that's where solutions, I'm just going to say that's where solutions like PartsEdge, that's why we exist, is really to help parts managers, because there's so much data involved in stocking the right inventory. And you do need a good parts manager. I don't want to say there is some gut, but there is. But then when you have gut with really good data, it just makes up for, the mistakes that can be made. I don't know if I'm making sense. I think you're nodding.
The other dynamic that we're facing in our industry is the tenure of the parts manager, who used to be the one that's been there forever. And now we have all these new people that we're introducing that were parts counter people that now are transitioning into a part that are working so hard in the business that they're not working on the business, and it's limiting their growth. And that's where the support comes from, these support systems. And if they were to embrace them, that would free them up so that they can get out and really grow in their business.
And Allie and Ellen, in thinking about this from your perspective in the dealership, what are some of the strategies that you've seen be successful in overcoming some of that obsolescence, and how do y'all really structure this with your employees, all the way across?
So currently right now, I'm kind of really working with a really young team, a lot of people who have been kind of thrown into some of these positions. So it's not just training on how to manage the inventory. I'm training them all the way around. So it's trying to coincide both reasonings to try to make them understand the importance at the end of the day on how much, one small hiccup can create such a large issue in the long term, because we're not following a proper process in order to encourage to keep the clean inventory and to encourage to be checking the bin counts and doing encourage them just as individuals to kind of learn. They're learning so much all at once. And so, for them to take it in is kind of difficult. I will say I've been very lucky from what I've experienced in the short amount of time that I've been here, how receptive and willing to learn, though, that the people that I have are, which is very, very encouraging for me, because I'm not walking into a new position with people who are very cantankerous or very difficult to work with. They are wanting to, they have the drive and they have the want, which I've been very beneficial for. So I'm hoping that by being able to train them and explain them and connect everything for them, that they'll be able to continue on that path as I move from store to store with the 7 locations that we do have.
There's nobody cantankerous in our business.
Have you met a parts person? I love them, but they're all very similar in some way, shape, or form.
Oh my gosh.
So, and in kind of piggybacking on that, I have a really, really incredible team back here, and they are not new. They've been doing parts for a long time. They're not the guy that came with the building, tenured, but they have been working together as a team for many years. They all understand what the role is of a parts counter associate. And I do genuinely believe that they understand how important their role is. However, for us, I think that it's almost in line with what you're doing. It's just going back to the basics and remembering. I mean, we had a situation not long ago, and it's silly, but it happens, and the ripple effect is so significant. We had an engine we had to order. We were able to finally get the engine. And when the engine arrived, we realized that we hadn't ordered one of the gaskets that needed to come with the engine. So now we're so excited. Everybody's all hands on deck. Let's go. But it's those little things that when you get comfortable and you have found the rhythm in your job that you sometimes forget, like the bin count. I mean, it's all these things that we all know. And when we walk into a conversation, it's like, oh, yeah, everybody knows about a bin count. But then the reality of just keeping it simple, keeping it basic, and sticking to kind of the blocking and tackling of what that role is.
And Allie, I would imagine, referencing back to what Kaylee said earlier in our panel, this is a day-to-day thing. This doesn't happen, overnight. This is a matter of every day, that maintenance and the sustainment and keeping on top of the inventory and not letting it get away from you. Because Allie, I could see that easily happening, after a week or two, and then we don't look anymore. Next thing you know, it's been 3 or 4 months, and now we've got an issue.
Yeah, I think you, me, and Sarah talked about this on the last roundtable when we had our conversation about just how's culture built, and then what does consistency look like. And I use the analogy that a football team, a professional football team, someone who has been doing it for 20 years, every single day they're running their laps and they're doing their push-ups, they're doing those training and those drills, because even though they've done it for so long, if you stop doing it, you lose that just the basics, the foundation of what makes you great. And so it's a daily reminder for our team. It's a daily reminder for ourselves that if we stray off the path, everybody's going to go with us. So we have to make sure that we make it a priority daily.
Sarah, another focus that I know you and I are seeing at the roundtable on parts is logistics of parts, getting them from A to B, whether that means in the dealership or from parts, wherever those may be, to the end use customer. Sarah, big focus on logistics, and there's a lot of new technologies and a lot of tools. PartsEdge has a lot of tools for dealers as well. But Sarah, moving those parts around really seems to be at the forefront, and the awareness of that now is top of mind.
It is, Ted. And I think that's another great opportunity when it comes to obsolescence, because when you think about your online database and how we shop on so many different platforms today, I'm very much the person that I click add to cart. I just do not have time to walk into a brick and mortar store with everything I got going on and pop in to try to find something on a shelf. It's way more convenient for me to just find it. There it is. I know it's going to arrive at my door. I know when it's coming, and I can make that decision all from a screen that's only 3 inches, across. Like, I can just go ahead and it's done. But Ted, to your point, a lot of our customers in dealerships are in that same behavior. So we're seeing so many customers that are, if they're looking for something, where does that inventory show up? How does it show up? And more importantly, how does it get there? So dealerships are looking at, and there's companies that are providing so many different solutions like this, where they can get a part across the country or across the world. And now that's off your shelf, and that's out of the equation. You've collected on it. And now your customers that are in your store are not your only source of business. You have an entire world outside of your market that you can tap into and sell those inventory pieces. And it's incredible to see, Ted, just how much this conversation continues to evolve around parts.
And Kaylee, I mentioned Tully earlier. He's had a big initiative in his 10 locations in Sacramento to close up the rear window in parts and bring the parts out to the shop and have somebody there and have those delivered. And Kaylee, you and Sarah and I got a chance to see the robot from Reynolds and Reynolds when we were together in Dallas a few months ago. Reload, bring the part out to the techs. Wow.
I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Even before the robot, it's like parts should be delivering to the techs. It's just the amount of time it saves, and also the culture it creates between the techs and the parts. Just, now they get to create a culture with the robot, but it's still like, it's a no-brainer. It saves so much time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the importance that we miss so many times is bin location, to Sarah's point, where that part's located, and sourcing, so that you can separate the inventory and know what you have in how it's identified. And it needs to be done, especially when you're carrying an inventory. An average car takes 10,000 parts to build. So you have all these parts, large and small, that you need to have a portion of those in your stock to fix what we find that is a normality and what fails. And if you don't know where it's located, you can't provide. And usually what happens, and I've seen it before, is that they can't find it. So what do? They order another one. Mm-hmm. Then they order another one. Yeah. Then they do their inventory and they got 25 of them in inventory, but they didn't know where they were at.
You mentioned something too, Mike, the sources. And I think that kind of goes back to the person that was asking the question about, inventory management. And every conversation I have, it really boils down to how your system is set up and your sources, because I think we as an industry just have been so like, this is the way it's been, it's worked this way, and not really looking deeper of, how can we break out the different commodities of parts? Can we set different day supply? Can we set different phasing criterias? Every manufacturer is different. We can't treat them all the same. And then you have a manufacturer program too. So it's like the parts manager is managing, when I think about one parts recently we looked at, he has about 600 in inventory and his part number population's over 7,000. It's just, that's a lot of moving parts. That makes
Literally.
Yes.
No pun
data,
intended.
back end and front, we're talking about two different things, data and physical.
Ellen, at this time of year, I mentioned the shorter months we have right now. But Ed Roberts was quick to point out when that was mentioned the other day on a panel that even though November and December are shorter months with fewer work days, we still have the customers with the same needs, no matter what month it is, in our shops, and they need those parts. What are some things that overall the fixed ops director, in addition to parts, what do they need to be looking at this time of year? As part of their forecasting, as part of their personnel. Ellen, in your case, you mentioned a younger staff, part of the training. What do we want to get them involved with, certifications and so on as well?
Now with it kind of being a slow time, I spend a lot of time, like I said, with the training and a lot of just kind of getting everybody in gear to kind of make sure that we're maximizing our days. With having the short months and the short days, you want to move faster, you want to get things faster, you want to get cars out faster. It's a good time to start connecting with customers and stuff too for the fixed ops side to make sure that they're keeping the relationships and stuff throughout the holidays. That's a big thing too. Just kind of pushing, really fast forward. Fixed ops directors, like I said, we have a very young one, so it's a perfect time to kind of get him the knowledge and kind of get him to understand. Like I said earlier, we're kind of focusing on fastest moving parts from the last 6 months or what we did last year to kind of bulk up, kind of like Allie was saying. They had an issue with their manufacturer, but in general, it works the same way across all brands. You want to make sure you have what you need, because if it's harder to get them, it's going to be harder to get the customer in and out as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I think especially in the November, December time, I think that the timeliness of our service experience for our clients is important at all times. But if you think about just added stress from life with holidays and traveling and kids off school and kids in school, just every part of the holidays adds stress to people's lives, even though it's supposed to be this wonderful, exciting time. There's always an added layer of stress. So then you add a broken car and money that you weren't planning to spend. It's all about being able to say, I've got it right now, and I'm going to fix it right now, and I'm going to get you to that holiday party tonight like you planned.
Well, and Allie, that's such an important component too. The time piece of it, but the other thing that I've encountered over the years, especially this time of year with that, you really do have to be on top of those parts and communicating with the customer, especially something like a special order or a recall part that's come in that time. In some cases, where I'm located, there's a lot of people that come home for the holidays and they're only home for a few weeks at that time. And they're trying to cram everything into that holiday visit. They're trying to cram everything into it. And if the dealership doesn't communicate and misses that window, now that car's gone until summertime. And you can't have those parts sitting on your shelves like that.
Mike, if I may, the group you spent many years with there in Northern California has some Ford franchises. And I don't know if it's just me, but I see the word recall in the news now. It seems like every week. I have never seen, Mike, so many recalls. Okay. I mean, the numbers are really, really big.
Mike, 12.5 million. Just got the latest one.
Mike, how does a parts manager prepare for that, knowing they're going to have this influx? And again, opportunity there, but again, it's not going to be on those particular parts sustainable. But what do we do?
Well, I think that the biggest thing that we've learned from that, I'll use the word hoarding. There are certain managers that go out and they buy up all the available inventory and then they sell them to their neighboring dealers that need to get these recalls done. The manufacturers have caught on to that, and they've limited the ability to do that. But so it's very important for the parts manager to work very closely with the service department as to what's incoming, so that they can have parts on hand. And you can pre-order those parts if you have a open repair order with that VIN and mileage on it, so that you can get those parts in. The other problem that you run into that some manufacturers put you in at parts availability, that there may be that large quantity of vehicles out there, but the availability of replacement parts is limited. So that, so that even expands the length of time it takes to process, get a part in, get it on the vehicle, and so that you can order the next, because they won't let you inventory the parts now. They're starting to tie that up to where you have to have that vehicle available.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, very much so. So all these things factor in, Kaylee. Kaylee, I think you're going to be very busy in the new year with all this focus on parts.
It's going to be a good new year, and we're going to be at NADA, so that's going to be exciting. I get to speak again. I don't get to speak on parts, but women in automotive and all that fun stuff, just empowering women. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, a lot coming in the new year. Everybody's preparing for it now. Everybody, Kaylee, if our audience wants to learn more about PartsEdge, and I know a lot of our dealers work with you. What's the best way? How do we tap into that knowledge base at PartsEdge? What do we do?
Well, you can reach out to me directly. I'm nice, I promise. So, with this calculator, I'm happy to run anyone's numbers, because it's very interesting to see. I've gotten a lot of people reaching out and sharing that. So I will have it pretty one day. Right now it's a spreadsheet, but I'm looking at it. But it's so reach out to me or go to our website, learn more about PartsEdge there. We have a lot of resources. We have podcasts, webinars. We're just creating a community for parts people to shed the light on it. So yeah, that's where you can reach me.
PartsEdge.com, everybody. Kaylee Felio, also very, very active on social media. I want to thank the panel, Allie Peters, Ellen Rhoades, thank you so much. Michael Weldon, again, a great resource in our industry and a great friend. And Michael, thank you for all that you do. Sarah and Kaylee, it just gets better and better.
It does. Thank you, guys.
All right. The PartsEdge panel, the experts, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.